Good morning. I want to welcome everyone to our webinar today with Crestwood Associates. Today our webinar is on SmartLists and GP, and we have our very own senior GP consultant from Crestwood, Georgia Stewart. Thanks for doing this today, Georgia.
You're welcome. Hi, everybody. So today is just the basic SmartLists information, and it will just go through how do you use the different SmartList features that come with GP. In order to get to SmartList, you can click the Microsoft GP button and then select SmartList. Once you're in the SmartList area, and I'm using GP 2013 version R2, so if your windows don't look exactly like mine, it is probably because you're on a different version than I am. Once you're in the SmartList, you can see that it's laid out where there are different folders, and the folders are based on what modules you have and what security you have to the SmartList. So for example, under the financial folder, if I click the plus sign there, I'm going to get different folders underneath that Microsoft has provided that are related to both the general ledger and also bank transactions, which are from the bank reconciliation module. And if you have multi-dimensional analysis turned on, you also have some SmartLists from there. The purchasing folder has both payables and purchase order information, as well as information about vendors. And the sales folder has information about customers and receivables transactions, as well as items from sales transaction entry. If you have payroll and human resources installed, there's a separate folder for human resources and one for payroll. And the payroll is usually related to the employee information as well as payroll transactions, whereas the human resources is more about the employee benefit information and education. And there are some applicants in there as well. Once you're in any of these sub areas within a module, you can click the plus sign next to a folder, and you'll always have an item that is a single asterisk. I'm going to open this up again. The single asterisk is always the default SmartList, and it has it's been provided by Microsoft, so it has the columns and the data that Microsoft has for that area of the system. So for example, in the financial folder and the account folder under that, the default information is for your general ledger accounts. And as you can see, there's some like the class ID that's empty in here and the node for the columns. If you need to remove columns or add additional columns, you can do that by first opening up to one of the SmartLists, and usually I start with the one that's an asterisk, and then you click the columns button, and this will show you all of the columns that you currently have listed in the SmartList. You can then highlight one and click the remove button to remove any columns that you don't need. And you can also click the add button the Add button will provide a list of all of the columns that are available for that smart list. The easiest way to find something is sometimes just scrolling through the list, but you can also use this Find Next feature, and the way you do that is you type in what you want to find. So for example, if I'm looking for a date field, I just type in date and click Find Next, and it will scroll through all of the fields that have date in there. So I'm just going to add the created date, and when I click OK, it adds that to the end of my list, and I can also use these arrows to scroll up or down in my list, and then I'm going to add another column that is the typical balance. So I'll just type typical and click Find Next, and I get typical balance. I'm going to move that up a little bit next to the posting type. And then I'll just click OK here, and I get a list of all of my GL accounts and when I originally created those. The next thing you can do is, if this is exactly what you wanted, you can click Favorites and give it a name. So I'm going to call this Accounts with Created Date. And you click Add and then Add Favorite. And that will add it as a little favorite down underneath the Accounts folder, so that anytime you come into this window, so I'll close out of the SmartList window and then I'll come back in. And when I go to Financial Accounts, I see that I have my favorite right here that I created earlier. When you create the favorite, you do have the ability to make it visible to the system, meaning it will be visible to all users that have access to any company in your system. Or you can make it visible to just the people that are in this company, or to a user class, which would be set up in the user master file when you add a user into GP, or just to your user ID. Even though you might make this visible to the system, users will not be able to see your smart list if they don't have security to this overriding smart list. So if you have not given a user access to see this account's smart list, even though you assign this as a favorite to the system, that person still won't be able to see this information. So you can count on GP's security to make sure that users only see the smart list that they're allowed to see. All right, in addition to this, you can do some searches. When you click the search button, you can do up to 4 searches, and the search type can be either match all or match one or more. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to search where the created date is greater than, and I'm going to tell it the beginning of the year, beginning of the fiscal year. And then I'll click OK. And it doesn't show me anything right now. But basically what this would do is let me see all accounts that had been created this year, and that way I know that I need to update either FRX or Management Reporter with these new accounts because they're brand new. I can go back and save a new favorite just by clicking New Favorite and changing this. of this year and click add and add a favorite, and that will add an additional favorite there. I can also click search, and maybe I want to enter a specific date. So I'm going to say is equal to and enter a date, and I'm going to just say 040117 because my sample company is in 2017. Or I could change it to is between, and then I could do the whole month and click OK and see if there's any that have been created in April, and there haven't. But if this is something that I use a lot and I want to just have changed my search criteria, all I have to do is say favorite and modify, and that will update this favorite so that now when I look at the search, it's always going to have this search. Another smart list that I've frequently used is this one that I set up to show me any P&L accounts that are set up as balance sheet accounts. This is really useful because in GP, when you set up a new account, the default is a balance type, a balance sheet as the posting type. And if your user forgets to change the posting type, you'll have incorrect accounts set up. And to do this, I basically just left this asterisk as the type, and in the search, I told it that I want to search where the posting type is equal to balance sheet, but my main account segment is greater than 3999 because I know that's the end of my balance sheet accounts, and where my account type is equal to a posting account. Now, if you remember, this particular smart list does not have the column called main account segment. So how did I get that in there? Well, when I do a lookup here, instead of using selected columns, I can click this little white arrow and choose all columns. And then I have the ability to choose any column that's available for the smart list in my search definition. I'm not restricted just to the columns that you see on the list. And the main account segment is whatever you have set up in your account format as your main segment account that means that GL account number. I did the same thing on this search definition where I used the all columns and then I looked for the account type. If you know how GP is constructed, there are unit accounts, posting accounts, and allocation accounts. And each one of all of those accounts are all held in the same table. So the account type in that table is what indicates which is a posting account, which is a unit account, and then you also have an allocation account and a unit allocation account. So we only want to see posting accounts because those are the ones that matter in this smart list. And my search type is also match all, so all of these three search definitions need to be matched in order to show me the data from the table. In addition, the maximum records, Microsoft sets that at 1,000 just as a general rule so that the smart lists won't take too long to build when you first come into the window. You can set this to whatever you want. You could set it to a whole bunch of 9s, and that would be pretty much not restricting it to a maximum number of records. However, you have to be aware that when you have a lot of records, it will take a long time for the SmartList to build sometimes because it has to pull in all the data. In addition to that, you have an order by, so you can come in here and tell it that you want to sort based on the account number. And when you click OK, it should sort everything by the GL account number and restrict everything the way you've told it to restrict in that definition. Now, what I've seen some people do is they have the GL accounts here, and then they'll go back to cards and financial and account, go back to the smart list and find this account. So you would have 000421001, and then just change this profit and loss type. But there's an easier way to do that. Once you have the smart list set up, there are things called go-tos, and that's this little white button on the side right here. And you can go to any of these links to open that account in one of these links. And in addition, you can just double click and it will open it into a default go-to that Microsoft has defined. So in our case, the default go-to is the account maintenance. So right here I can just change the profit type and click Save, close the window, and then go to the next account on my list and do the same thing. So it makes it really easy to go and do the maintenance on these to get them into the correct posting type. And then if you click the refresh button, it will refresh the list to show you what is currently set up incorrectly. Okay, for the next thing that you can do in here is I'm going to actually go to the account transactions. In the account transactions, when you click that asterisk, it's showing all transactions up to the first, however many you specified as a maximum. In my case, I had specified 10,000 instead of 1,000. And you can use these just to do a search on a specific GL account. So I'm going to go back and just look for my accounts receivable account. And that will show me all the transactions for accounts receivable. And then if I do a search again, I can narrow it down so that I'm only seeing a current date range. So let's see, in my selected column, I can tell it that my transaction date is between, and then enter a date range. And that'll narrow down the list to only 31 transactions for me. And then if there's something that I'm not really understanding why the transaction happened, if I double click one, it will go directly into the journal entry where this account was used. I can also click the Excel button, and it's going to open that all of those entries into Excel. And in Excel, I can do whatever I need to in Excel to verify that these entries are correct. Get back into GP again. And as you notice, this is a new feature, this little arrow here, that allows you to shrink the little navigation pane in the SmartList so that you don't see it and you have more room in your SmartList to see more data. That's a new feature in GP 2013. Another new feature in GP 2013 is this button that says New. When I click New, I'm actually in the SmartList Designer. And this is available to anybody who has GP 2013. It is a way for you to create new SmartLists. What you'll notice is when I was in this SmartList and I clicked New, it already brought all the information from that SmartList into this window. So it's a great way to start a new SmartList where you need to maybe add some relationships to a different table in GP to get more data that currently isn't available in the SmartList that Microsoft gave you. But what I want to do is just start from scratch. So in order to do that, I basically just start out with the SmartList, nothing highlighted, and then when I click New, I have a blank slate to start from. The only reason the series financial is selected is because I had my cursor on, or I had financial highlighted here. In GP, all of these fields that are listed in this little pane called database view, those are all the products that you have installed in your GP system. Under the Microsoft Dynamics GP, if I go into tables, I'm going to see each one of the different series that are in GP. So financial will have tables related to bank reconciliation and the general ledger. Sales will have sales transactions or sales order processing and the receivables management. Purchasing will be purchase order processing and AP. Inventory is just inventory, and payroll is just payroll. It does not have the human resources in it. The other products, if you have project accounting installed, you'd see project accounting, and then you'll have a separate product for fixed asset and a separate product for human resources. So each one of these products has its own set of tables, and it's just a matter of finding the right table that you want to look at. So if I click the plus sign next to financial here, it's going to show me all of the different tables that are in GP. So anything that says CM is for your bank reconciliation module. I think it's also called cash management. That's why they use CM. Excuse me. All right, so under the general ledger, I'm just going to scroll down until I find this transaction amount work. And when I click on this little checkbox, it puts all of the data out into this table into the selected fields, because I've actually checked that checkbox is saying I want all of them. I could also click the plus sign here and just go through and instead of all, I could just go in and pick the information that I wanted. So let's see, I'll just go down and pick, I think there's somewhere in here there's debit and credit. And if that was all I picked, when I click OK here, whoop, I need to have a name. So Georgia Smart List. It creates this smart list with the information that I selected in there. This is just a quick example to show you what you can do. So if I go into modify, then I can pick another table and define that there's a link to that table, and in this area I would then set up the relationships to that other table. So how is the data linked together? I don't really want to go into too much in that, but I just want to just show you that that's a new feature in GP 2013. I need to, I'm just going to try and delete this. Might not let me. Well, good. Here we go. All right. Another feature of the smart lists in general is the ability to make some changes to those asterisk lines in the smart list. So if you notice, Microsoft has all of those predefined, and if you don't like how some of them are predefined in that asterisk, you can click the GP button and go to Tools, Setup, System, and then Smart List Options. It's all the way at the bottom. In the Smart List Options, you can take a look at any of the smart lists. These are all the smart lists that Microsoft has provided. And one thing that is a little bit difficult is they're not in alphabetical order. They're actually in the order that Microsoft created the smart list. So sometimes it's a little bit to find what you want. Let's go down to the account transactions. And in here, these are the default columns. You can just check a box to add a column. So for example, if I need the the currency ID, I could just check that box. I can also indicate that I want these in a different order. So in the past, Microsoft always had the credit before the debit in this one. So you would come in here and just, it was like this, and you just use these arrows to move it down. And you can also indicate that the maximum number of records is different than 1,000. And that's what I had already done in this one, that I wanted 10,000 instead of 1,000. And then when you click OK, that just sets up that smart list so it has your options instead of the defaults that Microsoft gave. All right, back in the smart lists again, some other options that you can do in here are, let's say this particular one, the P&L, you want to know right away that this is a problem, because when you do the year-end close, if an account doesn't have the correct posting type, that will cause problems during the year-end close. So I want to know for myself when somebody has set up an account that has the wrong posting type. So to do that, I can click Favorites. I need to give this a slightly different name. And then I can say Add as a favorite and a reminder. It will bring up my custom reminder window, and in this I want to tell it that anytime the number of records is not equal to 0, I want to display this as a reminder on my home page. So I click OK, and now when I go back to my home page, if I might have to customize this so that I have the reminders section. So I'm going to make sure I have the to-do and click OK, and then refresh my page. And it's not coming up. Let me see. For some reason it won't keep it. All right. I'm not sure why it's not keeping it, but maybe if I pick a different home page role. So let me try this. There we go. So now on my home page role, I have my to-do screen section of my screen with the reminders, and I had actually already set one up for this, but when you click the link, it will open directly into that SmartList so that you can see the accounts that are set up wrong, and then you can deal with those. All right. As I said, you can also use these go-tos to open up into like the detail inquiry, and that will show you any journal entries for the year, if there were any. And the history detail, that would go out to the historical year, and in there you would need to pick which year you wanted to see before it would actually show you any information. All right, I am pretty much done with this at this point. I've shown you everything that I know about the SmartLists. Are there any questions? If you have questions, you can just type it into the chat area at the lower section of your GoToMeeting screen that is probably on the right side of your workstation, and then just let me know if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer.
Questions coming in the question box, not the chat area actually. But the first one, if we add a user-defined field to a checkbook, is that info recorded with each transaction and then available for use in a SmartList?
Okay, so the question is about the user-defined fields, and where that is located is under Cards, Financial, Checkbook, and then there are 2 user-defined fields. So the way GP works is the user-defined fields are specific to the checkbook. They are not recorded on every transaction. However, if you needed to, you can go into the bank transactions, and if I go to columns and add, sometimes they are available in the columns. Let's see if they are. Yeah. So here's the user-defined fields. I'm going to add this in here. Let's see. And then I'll test this out. I'm going to go back to my checkbook and say, call it Georgia UD1. Whoop, I have to pick a checkbook first. So I think most of mine are in here. Trust. Helps if I spell correctly. And if I refresh this, let's see if anything comes up. Because it looks like those are all from payroll. Search. So I'll search and see if my checkbook has it. And I'm going to use a contains in the filter because I don't remember the name of the checkbook. But the idea is that didn't appear. What that means is there's, I believe, some user-defined fields in some of the other windows, so it must be pulling from a different window. So in that case, I would have to actually link this to the checkbook. So if I go out to New, and then under my tables, I'm going to look for the, I believe it's the CM Checkbook Master or something like that. Yep. And make sure that I have user defined, let's see, here we go. User defined 1 and user defined 2 are added in here. And I also have to create a link. So I'm going to tell it to start with the user defined and the field name of the checkbook ID, and I'm gonna, I almost always use left outer joins, so that means to take all of the information from this table and join it up to the checkbook ID and the checkbook master, and we'll call this CM with checkbooks. And now you can see that it has those user-defined information. So this is, like I said, in GP 2013, this is only available in that release. You would be able to take an existing SmartList and create a new one with a link to the information that you need.
Georgia, you ready for the next
Any other questions?
We have 2 more questions that came in. The first, actually 3, but the first one
okay.
Is, can you show some payroll smart lists, please?
Okay. All right, so in payroll, this top one is actually one that I created, but the main one is under the employees. So anything related to employees is in the smart list called employees. And all the columns from the employee master are available in this smart list. In addition, the vacation time available, this is the vacation and sick time from the payroll, not from HR. So if you're using the payroll vacation and sick time, it will show up in the smart list, but it won't show if you're using the accruals from the HR module. Okay, then payroll transactions are the transactions that you have entered that will be used in the next payroll process. and the payroll historical transactions are the transactions that have already posted from a payroll process. The payroll transactions are a little bit tricky because there's actually, what you're going to see in here is that these contain data from a lot of different types of transactions. So if I go down to, I believe it's this payroll record type. No, I picked the wrong thing. I think this one's it, payroll record type. Okay, so the payroll, what you're noticing is that these transactions that we're seeing here are all related to pay codes until I get down to this one, which starts the deductions. So if you're trying to use this historical information, you're actually going to get multiple data, and you sometimes have to restrict on this payroll record type. So if I go to search and tell it where the payroll record type is just pay codes, I'm only going to get pay amounts of what the employee got paid. Those are the two main ones, are the employee and the payroll historical transactions. Those are the main things that people use when they're looking for payroll information. And you would probably need to add what the payroll record code is. I think that's, so this payroll code would be like your pay code or your deduction code. And a lot of times people also want a quantity in here. So I can never remember exactly what that is, but transaction, I think it's like the transaction amount or something like that. Nope. So this UPR transaction amount is the dollar amount, but I know it also holds like the quantity, but I can't remember exactly what the column's called. So that's why a lot of times it's difficult in these, because you have to figure out what Microsoft decided to call the column. But anyway, if you can see like the department in here, there's a department and a department from the employee master, and the department is the one that was recorded in the transaction, and the department from the employee master is the employee's normal department. Okay, so I don't know what else to show on this particular one, but this just kind of shows what the pay codes were that were paid this this employee in this audit trail code. And there are things like the payroll begin and end date and the check date. Those kinds of columns are also available.
Thanks, Georgia.
What's the next question? Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference between SmartList Designer and SmartList Builder? Somebody noticed that they actually had Builder in their GP13 where you're showing Designer on your screen.
Right. So in, as of, well, kind of a history of it, SmartList Builder was created by a company called E1, and at some point in the history of GP, Microsoft decided to license that product and sold it as part of GP. So it was a separate module that Microsoft was selling, but it was all done through Microsoft. In January of this year, Microsoft gave that license back to E1. So if you have SmartList Builder, you automatically would be licensed for it in the future, but the license is now going to be from E1. The reason I think Microsoft did that is because they then developed this other little product called SmartList Designer. And SmartList Designer is now a free product that is part of GP. There are a number of differences. So, and you can't, if I had SmartList Builder installed, I would not be able to see SmartList Designer. So you either have one or the other. And E1 actually does have a little diagram that shows what the differences are. But for example, you know, in both of them I can link tables together. I can also use what are called views that are out in GP. So a view is simply kind of already has all the joins and links between one or more or two or more tables, and these are all the views that actually come with GP. And then you can create your own. So here's some views that I created, and you can use these views in any smart list that you need. You can do that in the designer and the builder. In the designer, you can do a go-to. So I could create a go-to to open up another window if I wanted to. That's also available in SmartList Builder. And in addition, there's this little this little button lets me add a calculated field. However, I believe some of the calculations are fairly limited. SmartList Builder has more ways to do these calculated fields. SmartList Builder also allows you to create Excel reports and navigation lists and drill downs. So there's a lot more that is contained in SmartList Builder than there is in SmartList Designer. In addition, SmartList Builder also has this new feature that's really nice that lets you go into any window in GP and open a thing called Table Finder, and it will show you all the tables that are in that specific window that are being used to pull information into that window. So that makes it a lot easier to find what table you need, but that unfortunately is only available in SmartList Builder, not SmartList Designer. And both of them create smart lists that are visible out here in the smart lists area.
Thanks, George. I have one more question if you have time yet.
Sure.
The last question I see here is somebody wants to know what field comparison is.
Okay. In the designer. So field, I know, in the search. Field, this. Okay. In the search, I'm trying to think of a good way to explain it. When you're in a search, if you're doing a field comparison, you're actually going to compare one field to another field. Where I've seen this used is in date fields. So I could tell it, let's see. I could tell it where my maybe, and I'm in the wrong report, but I could tell it where the benefit adjustment date is not equal to the employee's start date. So I'm actually just comparing one field against another. And when I click OK, this should bring me back any employee where their benefit start date is not equal to their regular start date. And as you can see, I don't have anybody right now, but it's really just comparing two different columns of data. And you do have to be a little bit careful because you never know whether it's really going to do what you want or not unless you understand what the each of the columns means. Anything else?
No, I think that's it, Georgia. I don't see any more questions coming in.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us for the webinar. And when you do exit, if you could please take a moment and fill out our after-webinar survey, we would greatly appreciate it. Thanks, Georgia. You did a great job.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.